All right, so I'll open the June 1st meeting of the Hamilton Planning Board. On the agenda is discussion of the Code of Conduct. Finished conceptual review was on the agenda, but we're going to continue that to June 15th because I guess Andrew needs more time to put together some drawings. And then any other board business. So to open the meeting, we need to do a roll call, although you know everybody is here. So we'll start with Bill.
Present. Bill Wheaton.
Okay. Emil.
Emil Delaquist, present.
Ori.
Gordon Beaulieu, present.
Barney.
Barney Crouch, present.
Jonathan.
Jonathan Poor, present.
And Rick Mitchell. Okay. So first item on the agenda, and of course, we have our associate with us too, right? Good, thank you. So, Marty, you've been working on the Code of Conduct. Do you want to, and you just sent around the latest version, wrapped, I think I have the 28th.
Right, that's the latest version.
Okay. So do you want to just walk through that, or I don't think you have to walk through every single one because people can certainly read it, but you might have made changes or word changes or.
Well, I actually did, I made a lot of stylistic changes. I didn't make any real substantive changes. So unless anybody has any questions about it, the only thing that I did was I reorganized it a little bit. So what is now section 2 had been section 3, but I thought it made sense to discuss first the planning board members' responsibilities with respect to the community and then to each other, followed by responsibilities related to the director of planning and then to town staff. I thought that flowed better. Prior to that, let's see, in the first iteration, the section 2 was relations with the director of planning and then to fellow board members. So that was the only change in organization. But other than that, it was more language than anything else. And I know what generated a little discussion at the last meeting was what happens if a board member disagrees with the vote of the board? And Richard was concerned that that a member shouldn't openly disagree with the board, but we're elected officials. So I think that if the board votes in a certain way, a board member can respectfully disagree with that vote when he or she runs for re-election. I think the emphasis should be that a board member has to recognize that he or she is bound by the decision of the board, but if they are advocating any change to it, they should not disparage that decision or any other board member in expressing their opinion that the decision might have been in error.
Yeah. Right.
And whether I express that in words to satisfy everyone, you can tell me.
Where is that section? Is that the under 2?
That would be
2A, small a?
yeah, I think that would be it.
Yeah.
Marnie, did you send this around to everybody?
I think Patrick did. He sent it today.
Okay. Patrick, I did not get that. You were questioning about my email. I don't actually have anything under the Gov site since the 18th of May.
Oh, that's interesting because I've sent a lot of emails to board members. Let me check with our IT person and make sure that you're still connected with that.
Okay, okay.
Have you, Bill, have you sent any emails?
Yes, I sent from the town URL to Patrick this morning, saying that I didn't have the agenda yet.
I think
But that was sent from Gov.
that was on your MIT ED.
No, it says, it's in the sent box under Hamilton. Oh, maybe it isn't. Hold on.
Yeah, we
No, that's,
.edu.
you're right.
But again, I'll check with the IT person tomorrow and make sure you don't have a problem there, Bill.
Okay, yeah, you're right. All of our correspondence since the 18th has been on my MIT URL.
Okay.
I can forward this to you, I believe, Bill. I
Sure,
could
just
text-
try it now. That would be great. I'll see where it winds up.
So Bill, while she's doing that,
This is your at edu. Do you want that one? I
No,
could
try the Gov one, the Hamilton. Do you have that?
I do.
Okay.
I'll
try
send it to both. I just sent it to
Okay,
both.
that's a great test. Okay.
Bill,
Jonathan, you were saying?
yes, while she's doing that, what I recollect, but correct me if I'm wrong, was you had some interesting questions about speaking to the public or the press outside of official sort of board meetings. Was that something, that you?
Yeah, I think that's what Marnie was referring to, that.
Yes.
As
Oh, well,
elected.
actually, there were two aspects to that.
Yeah, that's under one
P, I think.
P, right? Small P.
Yeah. Maybe you could read that to Bill while he's waiting, and he could.
Okay. Refrain from communicating with reporters or state officials unless the board member explicitly discloses that his or her comments are his or hers alone and do not reflect the position of the board, unless the board has authorized the communication by a prior vote.
That sounds perfectly, Marnie, I just got your email on my MIT site, but I haven't gotten anything on the Hamilton site.
Yeah, there must be a problem there then.
I think there's a problem. So I just opened it now, which?
It was one P.
1T,
P as in Peter. Paul.
okay. Oh, I think that's absolutely fine. That's the way it should be as an elected official. You've got a right to talk to the press. You just can't say it's the board's view. It's your own personal view.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah, and that's
And
true.
the other issue that you
Marnie, you're
had,
good. You're a lawyer.
yeah. The other issue that you had, I think, is addressed now in 2A.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, I don't have any problem with that either. That's a definite improvement.
Any other questions by other board members?
Those are very good, Marty. Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome.
I've got one sort of obvious question, but maybe you can just clarify. It wasn't in the list, but are decisions rendered with a majority vote?
Unless otherwise requires a special, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Patrick, a special permit requires 5 of 7, I believe.
No.
It requires a supermajority, which you're correct, it would be 5 of 7.
Okay.
Yeah, so if nobody has other questions or comments, then I'm going to suggest that we vote to adopt this code of conduct.
Let me,
With one correction, that we spell your name properly.
yeah.
Sorry, Rick.
Let me make a couple of points. I have taken Marnie's draft. I have sent it to town council. I want to make sure that two things, especially, I want to make sure that there's no freedom of expression restraints that would be non-constitutional. I also want to make sure that we're in complete compliance or non-conflicting with any open meeting law, conflict of interest kinds of things. So I've sent that to town council, and as soon as I get some commentary from them, I can bring that back to the board, and I would respectfully request the board await their comments.
I think that's a great idea.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay,
All right.
I'll correct the spelling of your name, Rick, and forward that to Patrick, so he has what hopefully will be a clean copy.
Okay, very good. All right, so the conceptual review of the 40B proposal from Harbor Lights, just for anybody that joined us late, is being continued to June 15th. Patrick, is there any other comment?
Yeah, as you had mentioned a while ago, Rick, we were aware in our last meeting that Andrew DeFranzo had advised us that given some of the design changes that were talked about, in terms of height, in terms of locationing of the structures, that it was going to take them some time to have their consultant team get their graphics put back together. So they had requested at that time to postpone their return trip back to the 15th of June. So at that point, we'll bring them back.
Okay, very good.
Excuse me, Patrick, I have a quick clarification question on the work that they're doing. I know that you've requested some site sections. There were some other things that were requested. What I can't remember is there was some discussion about showing a fuller site plan that showed more accurately context of where the building sat on the property in the site plan itself. Is that in the list of their tasks?
We didn't necessarily give them a set of tasks at the conclusion of that meeting. They took the comments that came from the board, particularly from yourself, particularly from Bill, verbally to, sort of allow them a scope of focus of what their new plans, concept plans were supposed to be. So, we didn't have anything in writing to them.
Okay.
Any further discussion on that? All right, hearing none, let's move on to board business. Patrick, is there anything that we should be aware of?
Yeah, I did put down here, discuss planning board project review processes. Let me just bring one process up just for new members. One of the planning board approvals that's probably most frequently done by this board is called an approval not required plan. And essentially what that is a replatting or a revision to an existing piece of land parcel. It's, it can be either taking, let's say, a 5-acre property and dividing it into two, properties of that same outline configuration, collectively of the same amount of acreage, but two new parcels. That often happens here. I'm expecting at our next meeting on the 15th, we'll probably have a couple of, or at least one A&R request coming to the board. And this is an interesting element that state law imposes on local communities and enables communities to basically replat lots like this. And the product is signed by the members on a Mylar plan. That Mylar plan is then taken to the registry for filing purposes. It's as I've mentioned, is one of the most used planning approval processes in the Commonwealth, and that's certainly the case here in Hamilton. There are a couple, three things that are really the basis for how we make those approvals. The first is whether or not that parcel, the new parcel, and say the existing parcel, and the two, let's say there's going to be two new parcels, they have to have access. They have to have what's known as acceptable access, meaning that you can reasonably construct a driveway access to and from that property from a legal right of way, whether it's public or private. One of the instances about A&R plans that you would have a planning board voting no for an A&R approval is if that property is at, say, a grade, or you can't access it because you're on a closed access highway, or let's say you're on an elevated bridge, and then the property abuts that elevated bridge. Neither of those would allow appropriate access to and from those properties. So in those instances, you would have the ability to say no to an A&R on those properties because they have to have workable, reasonable access that's safe and buildable.
But the A, I mean, chime in here, the A&R provision in state bylaws is so flexible that it leads to, something you might consider abuse, which is huge pork chop lots, where you have 3 acres off somewhere, and then literally a pork chop, you have whatever the requirement is, a 50-foot wide, a bone coming down to the road, and you get the whatever frontage is necessary there.
Well, one of the other element to approval or non-approval to A&R lots is that they have to have adequate frontage. Some communities don't even have frontage requirements, but we
What's
do.
ours? 50, 75?
Ours varies between 125 to 175. And, another element of A&R plans is that there's typically a statement on those plans that even though the planning board does approve these plans, you're not asserting that that property in that new plan happens to meet zoning, but you are expected to determine that there's adequate frontage, which, you know, in our instances, we have determined those in our bylaws to be 125 to 175 by virtue of the three different residential zones that we have here in town. So that's kind of, you know, the cliff notes of how approval not required plans are reviewed and approved and filed. You know, and as I say, I'm expecting that at our next meeting on the 15th, that will have an A&R submission to us.
Patrick, on the 15th, are we back into public sessions?
As you know, I had sent out a memo that came to the town manager last week. There is an expectation that public groups beginning on the 15th of June should be undertaking their meetings in person. And if their, let's say their audience is too large, too grand for the meeting space, that those meetings also have the ability to be televised at that time. So, you know, we're going to end up with that sort of hybrid process where we're meeting in person in our memorial room and then trying to do Zoom or you know, HW Cam and the town manager right now are trying to work out what they need to do in order to get our meetings televised so everybody can see them, you know, live. Fairly often, our planning board meetings have been conflicting with the Wenham Board of Selectmen's meetings. So we're going to have to work that detail out because HW Cam can't be in both places at the same time. So that's why we need to get a new and better setup to allow us to do that.
And we're awaiting the legislature's action on the governor's bill that would allow public meetings to continue on Zoom and not in person.
Correct. They've not made that determination yet.
Right.
I think
So-
we've actually had more people, I'm pretty sure we have, attend the meetings remotely than we ever had in person. Even on the controversial ones.
Yeah, absolutely, Bill.
Yeah, no, I think it's actually a good a good method of holding meetings.
And
So
I agree, and I would point out that the memorial room is not very large, and I would suggest that we might want to think about a cap on the number of people that would be in that room. Not everyone is vaccinated, so if there were 40 people in the memorial room, that would be a large crowd in my view. And I don't know how safe that would be. I mean, if it were a few people that could be socially distanced, that's one thing, but a really large crowd in that small space doesn't seem to be that wise to me.
Have the state guidelines on this required social distancing? Is there any discussion of that in?
Not that I've seen yet, Bill.
Not just saying, okay.
yeah, I haven't heard or seen anything either. And that would really be up to the town health department.
Right. I think that the medical profession is not quite as aggressive as the government in terms of what's appropriate in large groups of people.
Yeah.
But I definitely share Marty's concerns.
All right, well, I guess we'll have to wait. So,
Well, one thing that could be done is when the meeting notice goes out, there could be a statement that the number of people that can attend in person is X, and it's first come, first serve, but you can attend the meeting via Zoom.
yeah,
So you're not really excluding anyone. I don't know if that's feasible.
Presuming we get the Zoom thing up and running.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure that's legal. You know, is arbitrary
Hybrid. Yeah. I don't know.
unless the health department, you know, stipulates that you can only have X percentage of room capacity. Otherwise, you know, you're imposing arbitrary and capricious limitations and probably going to run into open meeting violations. But that's a question for town council and the Board of Health to opine on.
We've just gotten a chat note from Leonard Rubin, who's in attendance with us tonight. And he's asked that we announce that only fully vaccinated people can attend meetings in person. He says, I know this is unenforceable, but at least make the announcement and set the expectation, which I think is entirely appropriate to do.
I think it's an excellent idea medically, but I think there'll be a legal issue on that too.
Yeah, it's hard to know. You can't know. HIPAA regulations being what they are, you can't really determine who is and isn't unless that's a voluntary measure, which is just that, a voluntary kind of thing.
Well, we'll wait with bated breath for further instruction from town manager, governor, the legislature, and anybody else that's going to weigh in on this. So, and I mean, this is probably not really a big issue until we have 133 Essex showing up, which Patrick, you're now thinking is going to be probably July.
Yeah, I'm thinking probably July. Just FYI, will be away June 3rd through the 13th. I'll be here for the 15th meeting. But even if we got the announcement that day, it takes a full month of processing to get an advertisement to the paper, have them inserted in their next available publications to be able to run for 2 full weeks ahead of the public hearing. So I don't expect it before the middle of July.
Okay, very good. I think the next item is minutes. And I'm going to ask if Arnie has any comments.
Well, the minutes were circulated, so I think there's a final version of the May 4th meeting. And there's a red line version of the May 18th meeting. So it's really up to you whether or not there are any changes to the minutes. In the May 4th minutes, Rick, you had several comments.
Right,
And when I edited those minutes, I included your comments.
right. I'm good with the May 4th. I haven't looked at the 18th, but that shouldn't delay us if other people have and are fine with it.
I have some questions on the 18th minutes. and it has to do with content rather than copy editing, which was I had made a design suggestion in response to Bill's comments to Andrew to help with the issue of the elevator and the massing. Andrew's comments about not being able to have kind of a residential massing and to reduce the bulk of the building were a result of trying to have a single elevator serve the building, and also to keep the building closer to the higher part of the hill, because I think there were soils limitations. So what my suggestion, my creative suggestion was essentially, was there a way to use the top floor to articulate the circulation for the elevator and not have units back to back to back, which would basically make the roof be able to be high in some parts and low in other parts. And I think I said it more succinctly in the meeting, and it's on the video. And I'm just wondering if that's germane, should that be included in the minutes as an actionable design suggestion?
It certainly is, if you think it should be included. This really is a review by the members. And if individual members think that their comments or the comments of other people aren't accurately reflected, they can be changed.
So it wasn't so much changing it, it was including it.
Gabriel, if you would like to have your comments included and the other members agree, then I would suggest that you actually send to Patrick the statement that you would like included and where it should go, what page, what paragraph, and then that can be accomplished.
So Patrick, what I sent you already, would that be sufficient, or do I need to resend it?
Yeah, I think you need to tell me exactly where you want the insert and then exactly what you want the language to be.
Okay, I think the language is close in the email, and then it would just, and then I'll put in an email where it should be inserted. It just has to go in the correct sequence.
Okay.
All right, so we'll postpone voting on the May 18 minutes until that change has been made. But unless anybody has comments on the May 4th, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the May 4th minutes.
I make a motion to approve the May 4th minutes.
Okay, a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Emil second that. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, then we'll go through a vote. We'll start with Jonathan.
Jonathan, aye.
Marnie,
Marty Crouch, aye.
Emil,
Emil Dahlquist, aye.
Lori,
W, I.
and Bill.
Bill Wheaton, aye.
And Rick Mitchell, aye. All right, so that's passed. Anything else, Patrick?
Let's see. Do you remember, Rick, when our next master plan steering committee meeting was to be? I think it was about a month from the last meeting, which was like a week or so ago, right?
Well, that's sort of generally true. The consultant sent around a calendar with some dates in mid-June, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe it could be next week. I don't remember. I responded this morning. So she was looking for getting everybody together that was available. So I think she will be sending an email and posting the next master plan steering committee.
Right. Let's see, anything from the Affordable Housing Trust, Marty?
No, oh, actually, I take that back. I just received a requisition from the Tregorth companies, and they're seeking approximately $218,000. And my recollection is that the consultant and the actual name, I think it's PM&C, were to indicate whether or not the requisition should be approved. And so I want to double check that, but I intend to forward all the materials I received to both you and Joe in support of that requisition. Just so the members know, the Affordable Housing Trust made a commitment to the Tregorth companies, and they have another entity, another LLC that actually owns it's Willow Street Hamilton LLC. But we committed $500,000 to affordable housing in that 18 unit development. And so although all the housing is not affordable, all 18 units will count for the subsidized housing index. So this is the first requisition of that $500,000 that they've made to us. And again, my recollection is that there's an entity that is to evaluate all the requisitions and make sure that they're appropriate. And so once we've ascertained that to be the case, we will then disperse the requested amount of money.
Thank you, Marty. Another item that I wanted to bring up, it is a planning related matter. Back about 10, 12 years ago, the town created a commercial overlay district. You'll see that in the very far east portion of the town of Hamilton, close to Tobacco Lake, Gravelly Pond. It's a portion of town that actually accommodated the former landfill, which right now and for the foreseeable future has a solar farm on it. There is a portion of land that remains that's outside of that, we have undertaken an environmental evaluation of. We hired a consultant back late last fall. They have evaluated the property. I've reviewed their first draft of their report. They're basically telling me that the land area that we have is highly limited with limited ability for developmental purposes. I know there were a lot of hopes that we as a town could sell some of the property for economic development purposes. But looking at the property, looking at the presence of wetlands, looking at the presence of what the state has determined as protected habitat for sensitive creatures, there's very little land left remaining with which to do any level of development on. So the first pass from the consultants didn't actually quantify what was buildable. So I'm pressuring them to get me some real hard facts as to what is reasonably buildable and what isn't. So, I'm working through that with those folks right now.
Patrick, is the solar farm, the town owns the land under the solar farm?
Yes,
So I presume they're leasing it from us. They have a
that's correct.
nice lucrative long-term lease. Okay.
Yeah, and that company's called Amoresco.
Okay. Okay. I remember this issue coming up, is there any way we can expand that area into an industrial park of some kind because it's so close to Route 128, but if it won't happen, it won't happen.
I truly wish there were more land area that's usable and viable there. But we really don't have it. What we have is very wet, very sloped land that has highly limited ability for development purposes from what I can tell and what the consultants are advising us.
Okay.
But I'm looking for better specificity because I need to take it to the Board of Selectmen and the town manager as soon as I can get it down to brass tacks.
Okay.
Patrick, if you need any help looking at what your consultants are proposing, I have done quite a bit of sustainable initiative installations, I guess we say, for other
Excellent.
companies. And we've done a 1.7 megawatt solar field install just recently in Ipswich at BioLab. So if you are looking for someone to translate or help with the consultant, I'm more than willing to take a look too.
Happy to get you going, pal. That's great. Thank you for the offer.
Sure.
I'll send you some things. Hey, Rick.
Yeah, I'm muted. Anything else?
I think we're good, pal.
All right. Well, unless anybody has anything else to say, add, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting?
I
Okay.
second the motion.
Okay. Any discussion? None. Okay. So we'll start with Bill.
I vote to adjourn. the meeting.
Marnie,
Marnie Crouch, aye.
Emil,
Emil Delaquist, aye.
Corey,
Corey Beaulieu, aye.
Jonathan,
Jonathan Poor, aye.
and Rick Mitchell, aye. All right. Well, I think this is the lightest load and probably one of the fastest meetings we've ever had. So we'll
Keep
see.
up the good work, Rick.
Yeah, right. So we'll see everybody on the 15th, and hopefully we'll be talking about Harbor Lights project on